If you spend enough time on certain corners of the internet, you'll eventually stumble across a picture exactly like this: an Israeli soldier wearing a uniform with a controversial Greater Israel patch sewn onto the sleeve. It's an image that immediately sparks a paranoid question. Are we looking at a secret blueprint? Is there a hidden plan for Israel to systematically conquer the entire Middle East? The short answer is no. There is no master government document, military directive, or official state policy aiming to build a Greater Israel. The Israeli military has even banned its soldiers from wearing that specific patch. But dismissing this map as a mere internet conspiracy misses the actual danger. Even without official state backing, this map is the physical manifestation of an extremist ideology that is altering territory right now. The borders drawn on these unofficial patches are active geopolitical weapons, dictating the fate of Palestinians and destabilizing the security of the entire region. Look at the massive territory claimed here, from Egypt's Nile River across to Iraq's Euphrates River. These boundaries are pulled from ancient religious scripture, but historically, under King David and Solomon, the actual verified borders were drastically smaller and constantly shifting. That ancient kingdom eventually fractured in two. Weakened by the split, it was repeatedly conquered by rival empires, eventually falling to the Romans. That defeat scattered the Jewish people in a centuries-long diaspora, effectively erasing the physical state from the map. Taking religious scripture written thousands of years ago and applying it as a modern-day border policy requires a leap of logic that ignores centuries of lived history. When the modern state of Israel was established in 1948, it was immediately thrust into a fight for survival against surrounding Arab nations. The new nation managed to hold its ground, but the critical turning point for the region's map happened a few decades later, during the Six-Day War of 1967. In less than a week, Israel launched a military campaign that drastically expanded its territory, capturing the West Bank, Gaza, and East Jerusalem. Instead of securing the nation, absorbing that much land practically overnight triggered an ongoing crisis over where the country's permanent borders should actually be. Inside Israel, the population fractured. Moderate voices argued for trading the newly captured land back to the Palestinians in exchange for peace, backing a two-state solution to preserve Israel as a democratic Jewish nation. But a vocal faction of right-wing religious nationalists saw the 1967 victory entirely differently. To them, taking back the West Bank was a divine signal to permanently settle the ancient lands of their ancestors. The tension between these two ideologies reached a breaking point. Prime Minister Yitzhak Rabin, who was actively negotiating peace and the return of territory, was assassinated by a radical extremist from his own country. That extreme nationalist faction has continued to push its agenda forward, driving the controversial and ongoing construction of Israeli settlements deep into the West Bank. This domestic collision between democratic peace and religious expansionism is the real engine behind the settlement movement, far more consequential than a secret government conspiracy. Today, the Greater Israel map serves as an effective ideological tool. You can find versions of it printed in niche educational materials and on posters distributed by right-wing nationalist groups. For Palestinians, this ideology carries devastating consequences. It's actively used to justify the loss of land and dismantle their right to a future independent state. Zooming out, this same ideology hands adversaries like Iran a rallying cry. By pointing to the map and claiming Israel plans to annex the entire region, they can build and fund anti-Israel coalitions. It also threatens fragile diplomatic progress with Arab nations. When new settlements are announced, these freshly signed normalization treaties are put to the test. In geopolitics, a threat doesn't need to be official to be deadly. If surrounding nations believe their neighbor is actively planning to conquer them, that paranoia alone is enough to trigger preemptive strikes and full-scale military conflict. A map doesn't need a government seal to be lethal. When extremist beliefs go unchecked and lines from ancient scripture are forced onto the ground, they can ignite the front lines of a modern war.